the musty smell of aging paper, the squeak of settling floorboards, and the soft shuffle of pages turning under your fingertips. There's just something about libraries that feels different, set apart from the rest of the world in their own little bubbles of quiet contemplation and studious focus. But those strange vibes might not be entirely explained by the hushed atmosphere and dimly lit shelves, because some libraries are hiding more than just books. Hi everyone, I'm here to tell you the stories behind the secrets held within these four walls. And today we are going to look at the dark side of literature and explore some scary stories from some very real haunted libraries. Our first stop is the West Yorkshire Archives Service in Wakefield, England. When it was built in 1892, this grand Victorian building was intended to be a gift to the town from one of its wealthy Maloning families, the Wrights. It was originally meant to house the family's collection of books, documents, and artwork, which they wanted to share with the community after their passing. But the Wrights were quite attached to their precious artifacts and stipulated in their will that if any damage came to the collection, it would all be destroyed. This led to the curious situation of the building standing empty for decades while the trustees argued over who was responsible for maintaining the building and its contents. Eventually, these responsibilities fell to the local library service, but they had to tread carefully to avoid any potential damage and thus incur the wrath of the Wright family's ghost. Some believe this could be the spirit of Frederick Dayton, Wright, who passed away in the building in 1942. His estate was valued at over £3 million in today's money, and he left strict instructions for how his wealth was to be managed after his death. If the trustees broke any of these rules, they risked losing access to a large portion of the inheritance. And perhaps that's why people feel his frustrated presence haunting the upper floors of the building. From one haunted library to another, our next stop takes us to Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge. Back in the 19th century, the university consisted of 3 buildings, 2 of which were destroyed in a fire, leaving only the third standing, known as the LSU Hill Memorial Library. It was built in 1913 to honor the students and faculty who died in the blaze. But it took almost 60 years for the campus to fully recover, leaving the library standing rather forlornly on a hilltop all by itself. This wasn't helped by the fact that it was constructed in an area prone to flooding, so the building suffered not only from neglect, but also from water damage throughout much of the 20th century. In the early 1970s, plans were made to renovate the library and transform it into a museum dedicated to the history of Louisiana. But construction delays meant that the doors stayed firmly shut for many years, and it wasn't until 1993 that the building finally opened to the public. By this point, it had earned the nickname the Haunted Hill because of all the strange activity reported within its 4 walls. Students claimed that books were flying off shelves, lights were flickering ominously, and chairs were sliding across the room as if pushed by an invisible hand. But when the museum finally opened, these ghostly occurrences became far more frequent. Visitors reported seeing books flying through the air and doors opening and closing by themselves. It was as though the ghosts of the former students and teachers were simply reliving the tragic day the building was abandoned. But if there is anything good to come out of this story, it's that the reported hauntings seem to have inspired at least one piece of art. Local artist George Dunbar created a painting titled Bookmobile based on the legend of the LSU Hill Memorial Library. Let's cross the pond now and visit the Columbia University Libraries in New York City. The university has multiple library buildings scattered around the campus, but the main research library contains over 8 million items spanning a huge range of subjects and time periods. One of the most popular areas is the Map and Media Division, home to over 1 million architectural drawings, prints, and photographs. It's also home to one of the most famous literary ghosts in the world, none other than the author whose books are the reason we're all here. That's right. Did you say boo? You didn't hear him. That's because the great Shel Silverstein is usually pretty shy about his love of spooky season. He haunts the library stacks, pushing books off shelves and generally making himself known to those who have a keen awareness of the paranormal. But it's not the only ghost in this particular building. In the 1970s, a librarian was working late one night when she heard the sound of someone walking through the stacks. At first, she assumed it was another member of staff, but then she turned around and saw no one. Then she started to hear chains dragging metal moans. Terrified, she ran to hide in the bathroom, and when she finally emerged, the noise had stopped. It wasn't until later that she learned about the story of Elizabeth Mills, a former librarian who passed away in 1937 while working in the very same stacks. Her ghost is said to wander the shelves at night, searching for her lost cat, which also died in the library. And we couldn't talk about haunted libraries without mentioning the British Library in London, spread over 3 blocks and housing over 170 million items. This is the largest library in the United Kingdom and among the largest in the world. It's a treasure trove of historical artifacts, including some of the oldest and rarest books ever written. But it's also home to a variety of ghosts who are just as old. The first is that of Thomas, Lord Croft, who died in 1740 and is said to haunt the main reading room. Visitors and staff alike claim to see his ghost sitting at one of the tables, engrossed in a book. Then there's the ghost of Sir John Chudleigh, who worked in the library during the 18th century. He was a friend of the artist William Hogarth and helped him compile the collection of books and manuscripts that formed the basis of the British Library. According to legend, he died while cataloging a particularly valuable manuscript, and his ghost can sometimes be seen holding a heavy tome close to his chest as he makes his way through the stacks. Finally, there's the ghost of Edward Gibbon, the author of the first comprehensive history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. He spent many hours in the library researching his book and supposedly died of a heart attack at his desk. To this day, people report seeing his ghost sitting at a desk writing furiously, never stopping until his work is done. From the stacks of the British Library, let's venture into the more modern confines of Boston Public Library. Built in 1854. This magnificent building is one of the oldest public libraries in the United States, and it was designed by architects to be as awe-inspiring as possible. With its soaring ceilings and ornate carvings, it's easy to get lost in the grandeur of the space and forget about everything else in the world. But if you do happen to glance up at the ceiling, you might just catch sight of a ghostly face peering down at you. It's the ghost of one of the library's former trustees, Charles Jackson, who died in 1859, just 8 years after the building was completed. He is said to appear as a translucent figure wearing 19th century clothing, and he can often be seen standing at the top of the stairs leading to the balcony. Some believe that Jackson's ghost is simply lingering here, because this was one of his favorite places in the library. Others believe that he died tragically and is seeking help or answers from beyond the grave. Whatever the truth may be, sightings of Jackson's ghost are so common that he has become one of the most famous literary apparitions in American folklore. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to stay tuned for more stories like these every week. See you next time!